So basically resume, cover letter, references, and an online presence. And so today we're going to go through each of these generally, and then I'm going to give some specific examples. And so at the end of this, I will make sure to send the PDF or the slides just so that you guys can go back to it and look at it. I have a lot of like links that you can refer to for different very helpful websites or examples of cover letters, resumes, or templates, that kind of thing. So I will definitely make sure to send those all to you after this presentation as well. Across all these job documents, though, my best piece of advice is to always have the job advertisement with you, looking at it at the whole time that you're preparing these documents, because you're going to want to weave in words that they use in that job advertisement. Especially now, it's getting more common that AI is something that industries use to take like the first pass at some of these kinds of applications. So if you do use like some of these kind of like keywords that they've said, look for this in the cover letter, then that would be really helpful to you. And that will get you on to the next round of basically maybe interviews or having a real human look at your stuff. So always refer to the job advertisement. I can't stress that enough. It's the best thing you can do when you're looking at jobs like these. Okay, so let's start with a resume. So a resume is a little bit different than a CV in that this is a document where you're kind of just highlighting your greatest hits, I like to say. So this is where you're selecting a few different achievements that are the most impressive or the ones that you can talk about the most, that really highlight a lot of different transferable skills or something that can make you stand out as a candidate. It's a very like persuasive document. You're really establishing kind of your identity as a professional, what kind of skills you're going to bring to this company or this industry. And basically, it's going to have your positions and then some bullet points underneath describing basically your accomplishments in those roles. So, in those bullet points, it's really important to use active words to describe different skills, tasks, or responsibilities. And then I like to say, and I like to tell people that it's really good to try to measure your achievements or quantify them. I'm also like, that's what I do in my work. So I'm always about numbers. But one example I like to say is like, if you have some volunteer work that you do or a committee you serve on, instead of just saying, I served on a committee doing this, you could say, I've dedicated over 20 hours preparing materials for leading this meeting, or I've spent over 200 hours conducting outreach in schools or things like that. So if you can quantify it, those numbers really like stick out in people's brains and will make you stand out as a candidate as well. And then, like I said before, we're always trying to match your skills with their needs. So always refer to that job advertisement. Okay, so things that you should include on your resume. So you definitely, absolutely need your name and contact information. Education experience. So you can start with undergrad if you're if that was a recent thing for you, and then also include your graduate degree, expected graduation date. If you haven't graduated yet, that is fine. In that section, this is a place where you could also put like the title of your dissertation or your thesis if that is relevant to the position. So like if you're applying to be a researcher at a biotech company, that might be something that they'd be interested in seeing. Awards, honors, certifications for sure, especially if those certifications are relevant to different positions like technical certifications. That's great to include. Professional experience, that can be all research that you've done throughout graduate school, before graduate school. That can be internships that you've held. And then definitely highlighting skills. So that's also a different kind of a difference between a resume and a CV is where you'll actually have, not that you can't on a CV, obviously, but on a resume, it's more common to have a list of technical and specialized skills. That could be like for me, or if you're in oceanography, maybe you're a scientific diver, or you have like ArcGIS certifications. Um, Sorry, those are all very scientific, and I can't think of other ones at the moment, but like, or maybe you're a mental health, like first aider, things of that nature. So those kinds of certificates and skills are good to put. Languages are great to include, including computer languages. Sometimes people forget about that, but if you can code in, Python and MATLAB and R and all these different things, that could be very attractive to different companies. So those are all things that you definitely want to put on your resume. And then some things you might include if you have the space or if they're, particularly impressive or they match the position, then you might want to put in relevant coursework. So that one's a good one if, for example, as an oceanographer, I'm applying to a pharma company, they would probably like kind of look at that and be like, That's kind of a weird jump." But if you put some relevant coursework as like different biochemistry courses or like RNA sequencing class or whatever, that kind of stuff, that might be important to include if you're making kind of a little bit of a swing with your trajectory, basically. Um, Publications and presentations, if you're applying to like a research heavy position, definitely have them, but I wouldn't list like, 10 poster presentations or something. I would do like selected publications, selected presentations, and give a list of a kind of variety of presentations. So maybe have a poster, maybe have an oral presentation, or if you were able to host like a guest lecture for a different for a class or something like that, that would be great. Leadership, academic service. So if you're serving on any faculty committees as student reps, that's pretty great. And then activities outside of research and professional experience. So that could be student organizations, volunteering or mentoring. If you're in some of these like honor societies, that could be good too, because maybe your employer or the person looking at it was also in those kinds of things, and that might be a good talking point. So think about all these things. It's a lot, but you definitely want to pick and choose which matches the position as best you can. But overall, you just want to highlight all the stuff that you've done and give, or not all the stuff you want to do, that you've done. Highlight some of the things that you've done that really speak to who you are as a researcher or a professional, basically. Okay. So when you're bulleting out some of these like descriptions of what your role was in a different experience, it's really good to use some action verbs to start your sentences. So I have a PDF that I will share with you all, but these lists of words are from that PDF, and it's really nice because you can get a list of some words that you might not think, or so you're not very repetitive on your resume. It's good to use some of these kind of action words. And it shows that you were really active in the role and that you did something and you weren't just passively like there at your position, if that makes sense. So I'll make sure to send a copy of these action verbs as well as the slides at the end of this. Okay. Okay. And then formatting wise, you want to keep it, it will depend, I guess, on the position. Usually a resume is 1 page, but it can be 2 pages depending on the position. You want to make sure you're using a very easily readable font. Sometimes adding some like blocks of color on there to make it pop is good. Just make it attractive to look at. And then one thing you can use is Canva. They have some free templates that can help you organize it a little bit. And then as URI students, we have access to this thing called Adobe Creative Cloud. And though that place also has lots of different templates you can use as well. If you need help accessing, I think IT can definitely do that, but your SSO should be able to get you on with that. With templates, though, just be careful and make sure before you submit anything, you view the PDF just to make sure nothing funky happened in the conversion there. Okay, so I'm gonna go through a couple of examples, but before I do, does anybody have any questions about all that stuff that I just threw at you? Let's see. Nellie asks, are these templates compatible with the ATS systems? Nellie, I am going to be honest with you. I don't know what ATS is. If you can tell me what that is, maybe I can look into it and I can get back to you with that. Ah, okay. The AI tools. Okay. Thank you. I would say if you I think that the AI tools might have trouble with some of these. So it is, in my opinion, always better to do it in like Word or even PowerPoint, like if you want. But if you're struggling coming up with the ideas of the layout or something, you can use like these templates to get an idea of what you want it to look like and then go into Word or PowerPoint and try to like recreate that, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's a good point. The AI tools, they might be a little funky with those templates. So good point. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So let's look at a couple of examples. So this is just obviously a template. Some people like to add a little like profile at the top. So giving just your like one sentence of like who you are, what you're good at, highlight some skills right there at the top. You can see that they have their education. I would say for resumes, you probably don't need a GPA as a graduate student and stuff. That's up to you though. If that's something that you are proud of and you want to highlight, that is totally fine too. Under the education, that's where like I like how this one had the a certification as well. So if you have other things like that, definitely put them highlighting their awards, different experiences. So here you can see they have some of those action words, and then they're like quantifying them, like maintaining department tracking report for 50 plus product, whatever, that kind of stuff. So using those action words are great. Talking about all different kinds of experiences under this one section, that's totally fine. You can also split it up into a couple of um, different experiences. So if it's a research position or like a science communication position, you can like talk about your like professional experience and then like outreach experience or something like that. And sorry, let me see what's in the chat. Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah, if they specifically ask for a GPA, definitely put it on there. Yeah. Okay. And then they have some relevant project experience. So that's cool because they're talking about a class that might be relevant to whatever they're applying to. And then they have their leadership and activities at the bottom. So that's one example. Another example is a little more, maybe a little more attractive in my opinion, but you know, that's just my opinion. So I like up at the top here, they give some kind of like broad interests of or skills that they have, and then they talk about their different education. I like under education, they have some relevant courses and the honors. Then they talk about relative project experience again, which could be really helpful to show like things that you've done in class that really translate well to your field. Um, Again, they're using those action words and leading teams, having, you know, numbers to specify their basic like um, achievement. And then each of these are also taking advantage of, you know, bolding and italicizing things that are important. Um, let's see, and then they have their professional experience, and at the bottom they have, sorry, it's kind of like split up like that. But at the bottom they have their computer skills, and then selected publications and presentations. And again, like I said, for the selected publications and presentations, pick the ones like you're most proud of. That show who you are as like a researcher or as a communicator, those kinds of things. If they have an interesting story to them, also a good thing to add because then in the interview process, you can expand on it and talk about it a bit more. Um, but yeah, so this is like, these are examples of like a one-page resume. Okay, so also a couple of things to avoid on your resume. Avoid pronouns and not saying like, you know, my pronouns are she, her. You can definitely put those on your resume if you'd like. But I mean, like when you're describing something you did in the bullet points, try to avoid saying like, I did this or my blah, 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 me, whatever. Try to avoid using those kind of pronouns. Definitely avoid using jargon or acronyms, especially you know, if it's outside of academia, maybe these industries don't use the same like tools that you use, so they might not know what you're talking about. Keeping it easily readable and what's the word I'm like comprehensible is great for you. Again, with maybe these AI systems, the acronyms might get lost in the weeds, so trying to avoid them that way, that's good too. Again, here we want to stick to bullet points, try not to do like long blocks of text and narratives. Be careful with templates with the AI stuff. And then I have not seen people do this when they come to me in the writing center, but I've been told to tell everybody not to use JPEGs or TIFFs or animations on their resume. So watch out for those things. But definitely don't forget to proofread it and check for misspelled words. Make sure that that's an easy thing to make sure you're getting correct for these things. Okay, so I'm going to move on to cover letters unless there are any questions. Cool. So the cover letter is kind of this place where you get to really expand on your resume. So like you guys saw with those resume examples, they're very short, right? And there's not a lot of space. You've all done so many incredible things. So this is kind of your place to expand and highlight those achievements. Again, make it relevant to the job posting. Why do your achievements and skills make you the perfect candidate for that position? So when you're thinking about each experience that you want to talk about, end by saying, how this prepares you well for the job that you're applying to, or why that experience, what you've learned from that experience, why is that going to make you successful in this new position? And then if you don't think you have direct experience in the position, think about your transferable skills and highlight those. One thing to note also is coming out of graduate school, you're not a student anymore, so your tone should try to reflect that you're a colleague. That is something that I've seen before and just wanted to touch on real quick. Okay, so for cover letters, the organization. Cover letters are usually, again, 1 page, max 2 if they ask for it. You want to have an opening paragraph that really describes, well, first of all, what position you're applying to, but why are you interested in the position? And then give kind of like, I like to call it like a little thesis statement, or just like a really quick description about like why you are the best person for the job. What are the like top skills that you're going to bring, and how will that make you successful in that position? And then in the body of the letter, that's where you really like emphasize your strongest qualifications, demonstrate what you've learned from different experiences and how that's going to help you be successful. This is really where you get to use your voice and be creative to let them see who you are. Like your resume is not so much, your voice isn't really coming through there. Your creativity might not be coming through there as much. Your cover letter is really where you get to shine, I think. So you can let your personality come through there. And then for the closing, you want to directly but politely request an interview or further communication. So a lot of people I've seen, basically say like, I look forward to meeting with you. Please reach out if you have any other questions. That's great. But there are some ways that you can kind of slyly put in the fact that you're ready for for an interview. And then definitely thank them for their time and consideration. Okay. Another thing I like to tell people, when you're writing your cover letter, sometimes it's really hard to get started, just with like any kind of writing, obviously. But if you're feeling like intimidated or just like have this kind of like writer's block, something that is nice to do is basically write an email to a friend or like a coworker, lab mate, whatever, and just tell them why you think this job is exciting and interesting. And then that can sometimes kind of like jumpstart your brain for that kind of first paragraph where like you're saying, I'm writing because I'm excited about this position and this is why I'm excited, that kind of thing. So that is one way to just kind of like get your creative juices flowing. So, but you don't have to do that, obviously. Okay. So again, 1 page, 3 to 4 paragraphs. So if you have your opening and closing paragraphs, and then 1 to 2 body paragraphs is good. Try to use the same font that you used on your resume to make it nice and cohesive. Make your headers match. You want the date on there, the address of the employer. And then definitely use salutation, Dr., Ms., or Mr. use Ms. usually for women. I think that's the safest option. And then really try to avoid using AI to write these because you really want your personality to come out and shine. I definitely suggest if you use something like Grammarly, typically that's fine. Like check your grammar and spelling for sure. Um, but having like ChatGPT read a uh, job posting and make you a cover letter, that's sometimes a good place to start just to like get your idea of like what it should look like. But really try to make sure you can highlight your experiences and be really specific about what you've learned and gained with those things. Okay. So before I go to examples for these, does anybody have any questions? Okay, cool. So this first cover letter I wanted to show as an example just because it's actually not for a job position, but it's like a networking cover letter, and I thought that was interesting. So you can see here they have like the address here, the header's the same as their resume. You have the date. They're using a salutation, and then they're talking about what they're interested in. Like they basically said that they heard about something and they are interested about it. And then they really highlight, like, I think all these skills I have and my experience would really help me or get me to excel in this role that I saw that's happening or whatever. And so then that's when they started to get into some of their specific experiences. And here they talk about all the different like what's the word I'm looking like technical skills they have. So they talk about remote sensing and spatial analysis skills through one particular project. And they're talking about when they'll graduate. So sometimes when you're networking, it's nice to like basically say like, I'm starting to think about like what I'm going to do after graduation and these are my skills. I would love to basically catch back up with you once I graduate. And that's a really effective way to kind of get the ball rolling sometimes with jobs like this. Okay. Here's a example. So this is for I think what was the position? A cataloger at a library. So they, start their opening paragraph with the position that they're applying to. Um, they're talking about like why they're interested in it, and then they highlight basically why they think they would work in that position. Um, Here, I wanted to highlight this cover letter because they talk about like classes that they took instead of like, maybe they haven't worked as a library cataloger before. So they just talk about a class and what they learned. Um, they also talk about another class that was also directly related to like library services. So that's really cool. So this is a good place where um, you can expand. So like if you say on your resume, one of the like classes you took, you just have the class title. This is where you can say like, okay, in that class that I told you about, this is what I did. This was a project I conducted, and this is what I gained from that project or class. And then they talk about an internship, again, highlighting different skills and showing people what they basically gained. Like they say their supervisor commended their attention to detail. So highlighting some things that they like achieved, which is nice. And then, oops, and then again, they end with saying like they would be thrilled to work at the institution, and they hope to hear from them soon. let's see. Okay, another example. This one, this is becoming more common. So I've heard from one of the people in our professional development office here at URI, but having these like bulleted points is becoming more common. So if that's something that you like to do, that is totally okay. So they start again saying why they're interested and what kind of skills they have that are going to make them a good candidate. And then they take those skills and give specific experiences or like demonstrate how they've used those skills in the past with this bulleted list. So that is something that is pretty unique and honestly might be easy for people that are like reviewing these packages, just saying like, awesome, like those are the skills we asked for. Here's how they've done that in the past, and here's an easy demonstration of how they've done it. So it might just be easier for the reviewers. So that is an option as well. But you don't want to copy it from your resume. You want it to be like new thoughts about different tasks and skills and why you'd be a good fit. Okay. And then I have another example, kind of like template. This one is a like skills and results centered letter. So they focus on a couple of different relevant skill areas and have like headings. That's what these like bolded headings are. And then they basically show how they've gained those skills and the results of the work. So that's another way to do it. Kind of like the bulleted list where you're highlighting specific skills and kind of expanding on them like that. Same thing, but giving them like headers and a place to go to look at those specific skills. Okay. And these skills, again, should be skills that match the job description. That's always a great place to start. Okay. Any questions about cover letters? And again, I will send slides so you can look at these. And I do have links in the notes sections of this PowerPoint to some more examples. So I'll make sure to send them as slides so you can see those as well. Okay. So a couple other things. So references, sometimes they don't even ask for references. Sometimes they ask them to be on the resume, so you can just add that to like the bottom or something. Or they might be requested as like a separate document. So if they do ask for a separate document, you could just make a little table like this, where you have like the names of the people and then the relationship to you, email, phone number, different contact information. Easy peasy. That one, that's usually what they're looking for there. I think it's not as common to ask for reference letters with industry jobs, but let me go to the chat really quick. Okay, so last something that anyone can use, or does it apply to tech jobs? The last cover letter is something that anybody can use for sure. Yeah, if you're Sonia, you're in the natural resources department, is that true? Okay, yeah, you could definitely use it. So anytime the job posting says, here are the skills or like our preferred qualifications, that kind of thing, look at those and then you can bullet them out, or the last one was the headings. Have those be headings for your different experiences and talk about either like direct experiences you've had or like transferable skills that could support those skills or experiences in that way. But yeah, definitely you can. Okay. So then the last thing to talk about is having an online presence. So this is pretty common for industry track positions. It's good for networking and making connections. This is also a good thing, especially for like alumni connections. Typically, if people, see like you went to undergrad at their same institution or graduate school at the same institution, whatever, that could be cool, and they might like you because of that. It also connects some of your skills to jobs that you might not have considered before. So that is a pretty cool thing and unique about that too. So if you're in the beginning of like your job hunt or job search, getting on LinkedIn and putting in all the skills into your profile, that might be nice to just see what they suggest for you and just to get an idea of like what kind of industry jobs um, are related or like to your skill set. And then Blue Sky is like the new kind of science Twitter. So if, or, for academic presence for research, that is another place to consider having an online presence. And for LinkedIn, again, I have a link to a nice article about improving your LinkedIn presence. I definitely need to do this. um, I have not dived into that yet, so I need to do this as well. So making sure you have a profile picture that's recent, looks like you, a background picture that makes you stand out. Um, some people suggest making your headline more than just your job title. So, like, instead of saying, like, Gabby, I'm a PhD candidate in oceanography or whatever, saying, like, I'm an oceanographer who cares about climate change and nutritional quality of phytoplankton or something like that. That's a pretty long thing, but like something like that would be cool. And then if you are somebody who like people get your name wrong all the time, recording and displaying the name pronunciation is an option on LinkedIn, which is pretty cool. And then again, listing relevant skills. And then your summary, you can turn into like a little bit of like a narrative of like, what you've done and how you've gotten to where you are now. So those are just a couple of tips. There's an article that I'll share that has a lot more than just those things. So I'll make sure to share that with you all. And then definitely, 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 please use the resources that are free for you. One resource that if you did not know about is through the graduate school professional development career services, you can actually make a one-on-one appointment with Dr. Lundstein, Natalie. She is fantastic. She is really good at improving LinkedIn presence, online presences. So if you want her to look at any job documents, do mock interviews, or look at like your online presence stuff, online profiles with you, she will do that. Um, you can also come to the Graduate Writing Center, obviously, please do. And we can work on anything from your cover letter to the content that you're putting online or your resume, anything like that. So the other good thing to know for the Graduate Writing Center is we instituted this, I think, this past year, but you can still come to the Writing Center up to 6 months after you graduate. So if you're still in that job searching, job hunting phase after you graduate, you can schedule appointments with us and we'd be happy to help you and have you there. Okay, so please, if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute or put them in the chat. But I will share PDFs of different articles and those action verbs, as well as all these slides. So thank you guys for coming. But yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a short question. So I'm planning to graduate this December. So when do you think that's a good timing to start to apply jobs?
Yeah. So like I was kind of saying with that networking cover letter, now could be a good time to just start reaching out to people and saying like I am going to be graduating and this is a position I'd be interested in. Like, can I contact you, in the future and can we have a conversation about, positions that are available, in December or something like that.
Okay, that's a good idea. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing the screen. And if nobody else has any questions, I'm gonna end meeting. All right. Thank you all for coming.